As I mentioned in some of my other videos at YouTube at Michael Kujawski and TikTok at Michael Kujawski, I self-published Unequivocal Malice back in 2004, and I mentioned my throat had been choked closed for approximately 11 years from it was until 2005, and that started way back in December of 1994. So during that time, it was described um, by a medical professional as a mysterious problem that was not clearly diagnosed as any known illness. So during that time, beginning in 2001, for several years, as I was visiting many bookstores and public libraries, I self-published my own a story as I was reading books during that long period of inactivity. So here's this one, Unequivocal Malice, and it mentions me there. I self-published it at iUniverse in December of 2004. And the back book jacket, The Killer, when he was a troubled youth, his turbulent father told him a crazy story. Haunted by the indignity of his unstable childhood, his passion for revenge is almost demonic. Danger lurks. A responsible citizen stumbles onto a corpse and receives a nightmarish warning. The sheriff and his deputies are called upon to track down the murderer, and two small-town reporters become part of the terrifying story they are covering. What will happen next? Although tragedy can strike at any time, there is one thing that is certain: the madman must be stopped before he kills again. A contemporary story that delves into the past. In Unequivocal Malice, author Michael Parker offers a fresh combination of thrilling horror, crime detection, and insight into the news media. And as you can see there, that has a barcode connected to it. And I had that placed in several libraries in Milwaukee. This was before I taught English in China and South Korea. So there it is, Unequivocal Malice by Michael Parker. And now taking a look at it, I did this the other day. One question I always have when I look at a book: how does it end? Now, this is a pretty old one, 2004. That's way back, this is 2025. That's 21 years ago. Here are the last pages. So I thought I'd read the ending to you in this 10-minute deal. I will start on page 274, the second to last page. It won't be long before he's tried and shipped off to prison, Weaver said. Weaver is the sheriff who arrested the villain in this. I believe back there the antagonist was named Stonehill, was one of the names I used to describe him. I remember Vernon, that's Stonehill's evil father, the antagonist's evil father, the villain's abusive parent. I remember Vernon back there, what was it, 25 years ago or thereabouts. He was an ornery bastard, and his son turned out the same. So that's the sheriff explaining the background of arresting Stonehill, the villain in Unequivocal Malice. I didn't live here then, but I remember Vernon's crazy story about the supposed collapse of the mine shaft, Morehouse said. Morehouse is an interested party who assisted the sheriff in arresting Stonehill. After the Kellinger site was robbed, that's a mine, it was eventually shut down, Dawson reminded them. The farmers returned to their farms and the workers returned to town. They couldn't get nobody to run the place properly, so they just shut it down. The same thing will happen at Stonehill's farm. So here the villain was out on a lousy, dilapidated farm, and his evil nature got him into trouble. Morehouse interrupted. As far as Stonehill is concerned, I can't say I feel entirely bad about the whole mess. Thanks to the courageous efforts of the sheriff, we've got him safely locked up. That's the truth, all right, Dawson agreed. He'll get what he deserves. a long prison sentence. It's bad enough he was drinking at bars around here. Just like law-abiding folks, I read all that crap in the newspaper about how his father didn't treat him fairly. Maybe our justice system will put some sense into him. I realize that with new residents moving in, and the town is quite a bit different than it used to be, Morehouse reasoned. Dawson looked at Weaver. You just can't let dangerous folks run around loose, Sheriff, thinking that they're citizens. And now the very end, on page 275, back here in 2004, Unequivocal Malice. I hope you take a look at it if you find it at a library or on the internet. You're from iUniverse.com, the self-publisher, but those can be ordered through all the different, internet sites, Books A Million or whatever, and Amazon or whatever. You're right about that old-timer Weaver said. You don't have to worry about anything. Stonehill ended up where he belongs. Morehouse picked up the bag, and he and Weaver began walking away from the druggist's counter toward the front exit, so they're apparently in a drugstore. We'll see you, Sam, they said in unison. Smile when you take that medication, Dawson said. So they're buying medication at a drugstore at the end here. I will, Morehouse said, strolling down the sidewalk to Weaver's office. That's the sheriff's office. Strolling down the sidewalk to Weaver's office, gazing at the modern restaurants, gas stations, and banks that had sprung up over the years, they both agreed the community had undergone noticeable improvements. And that was how I ended it, describing the community on page 275. So this is at approximately 7 minutes. I have several minutes left. Let's look at the front of Unequivocal Malice. I would appreciate it if you could, take a look at it. This is the beginning of Unequivocal Malice. I started off, there I have a list of the chapters in this one. And as I mentioned, I self-published it at iUniverse.com. And here we start off with a prologue. The very beginning, the beginning of the beginning. His breath coming in short gasps, Marsden's victim looked down the black barrel of a loaded 12-gauge shotgun. I was only kidding, the hostage pleaded, so right away here I've got a hostage in the plot. His blonde hair matted with perspiration. The arguments and your problems weren't your fault. I know that, Marsden said, with mounting irritation in his voice. In the yellow moonlight, seeping between the tall pine trees, so this is apparently out in the forest, his coarse face with a long mouth and sunken eyes bore a light resemblance to a skull. Marsden said nothing for a few moments before resuming the conversation. You kept me in such a terrible situation, Marsden continued, for so many years, and all you've got to tell me is that it wasn't my fault? Well, he raised the shotgun. I needed the money, Marsden's victim said. He was afraid to make the slightest move, never taking his eyes off Marsden's shotgun. It was the economy he offered furtively. I don't have any sympathy for you, Marsden said. The pupils of his eyes were hard and black against the white pigment. Marsden looked away into the unlighted woods. No one seemed to be around. He's one of them, Marsden told himself in black and white terms. He's the enemy, in italics. No matter what I did, the poor bastard never took my side. Unable to control his rising panic, the man shouted, "For crying out loud, you've got to trust me." Not far away, a raccoon padded unevenly toward a clearing. In the moonlight, its gleaming eyes half visible, it was frightened by the desperate voices of the two men. To the creatures of the forest, the men were intruders. So that's the first page, page 3 of the prologue of Unequivocal Malice. So I'd hope you would, take a look at it, see if you're interested in this type of thing. It's shorter than 300 pages.